Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalaka Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha.
Shukadeva Goswami answered, one should control the sitting posture, regulate the breathing process by the yogic pranayama, and thus control the mind and senses, and with intelligence apply the mind to the gross potencies of the Lord, called the Virata Rupa. Purport. The materially absorbed mind of the conditioned soul does not allow him to transcend the limit of the bodily conception of life, and thus the yoga system for meditation, controlling the sitting posture and breathing process and fixing the mind upon the Supreme, is prescribed in order to mold the character of the gross materialist. Unless such materialists are able to cleanse the materially absorbed mind, it is impossible for them to concentrate upon thoughts of transcendence. And to do so, one may fix one's mind on the gross material or external feature of the Lord. The different parts of the gigantic form of the Lord are described in the following verses. The materialistic men are very anxious to have some mystic powers as a result of such a controlling process, but the real purpose of yogic regulations is to eradicate the accumulated dirty things like lust, anger, avarice, and all such material contaminations. If the mystic yogi is diverted by the accompanying feats of mystic control, then his mission of yogic success is a failure, because the ultimate aim is God realization. He is therefore recommended to fix his gross materialistic mind by a different conception and thus realize the potency of the Lord. As soon as the potencies are understood to be instrumental manifestations of the transcendence, one automatically advances to the next step, and gradually the stage of full realization becomes possible for him. Srila Prabhupada writes, the materially absorbed mind of the conditioned soul does not allow him to transcend the limit of the bodily conception of self. Succinctly stating the position of every living being within this material world. Everyone is part and parcel of Krishna. We are meant for unlimited bliss in the service of Krishna. Now we are in the bodily concept of life, and we are materially absorbed. It means we're trying to enjoy this material world. We're fully absorbed. We take this situation that we're in to be me. Even though if we philosophically consider that this life of maybe 50, 60, 70 years, it's very short. And what's the significance of it anyway? We're just tiny living beings in one tiny planet, in one tiny universe, although it appears big to us. But we take this to be all in all. We're absorbed in things which seem to be very important to us, whereas everything here actually is temporary. We don't know the scope of reality beyond this material condition. So there are different processes given to awaken our perception of reality. What we see to be reality, in one sense it's real, it's not totally unreal. It's not that you've seen the trees out there, they're not there. They're there. Some philosophers say, Brahma Satyam Jagam Mithya, everything in the universe is temporary. They say everything in the universe is unreal, mithya, false. But this is a meaningless philosophy. If it's false, then why are you eating? When it's time to eat, you don't say it's false. Why should I eat? It's all false. Let me just starve to death. Or even if you don't eat, then you will starve to death. Now how can you say that's predictable, that you will starve to death if you don't eat? So how can you say it's false when there are so many laws within the universe, such as if you don't eat, you starve to death eventually. So the fact that there is order within this universe speaks of the reality of this universe. Therefore, other philosophers, they say just the opposite. Jagat Satya Brahma Mithya. They say that this world is real, there is no such thing as anything spiritual. This world is all in all, there's nothing beyond this. They don't have experience of anything beyond this, and therefore they say, because we don't have experience of it, it doesn't exist, which is a very foolish idea. Very foolish. How many people here have been to China? Has anyone been to China? No one's putting their hand up. I didn't expect anyone to put their hand up. So is it a good philosophy to say there's no such place as China, because I never saw it. I never went there. There's a very strange idea. Another. Philosophy mostly in the modern world means all kinds of strange ideas. People posit to try to explain what's going on around them, because if you don't know what is the actual situation, if you don't have Bhagavad-gita Vigyan, if you don't have scientific knowledge of the personality of Godhead, then to try to explain everything is very difficult. You don't know what's going on and you're trying to explain it. Just like we have this phenomenon of UFOs, unidentified flying objects. We don't find too many flying around Gujarat. They mostly seem to be in America. So people don't know what's going on. There seem to be spacecraft coming out of somewhere. I don't know where they're coming from. Some people say from different planets. Some people say from inside the earth. There's so many theories because they don't know. They put forward some theory. So in the same way, people are putting forward different theories. One I was going to say, there's a theory that if in a forest a tree falls down, this is giving an example, if there's no one there to see it falling down, it didn't actually fall down. Or if the tree, there may be so many trees in a forest, but if no human goes there to see it, then it doesn't exist actually. This is all going on in the field of Western philosophy. Something can only exist if you perceive it. Otherwise, what is the meaning of its existence? It doesn't actually exist unless it's perceived. Of course, there are so many other living beings apart from human beings, such as birds and insects, who may perceive it. But another Western philosopher gave the idea that God is always there to see it. Whether you see it or not doesn't matter. God is seeing it. So like this, they have funny ideas, very strange ideas. That something doesn't exist if you don't see it. And then they come to the idea, well, there's no spiritual reality because we don't see it. I don't see it. Of course, others may see it, but they call that imagination. There are so many people throughout the world who have had spiritual experiences. But because the gross materialist doesn't have spiritual experiences because he's a gross materialist. Axiomatically, he cannot have spiritual experiences because he's a gross materialist. He's completely cut himself off from any spiritual experience. So, he says it doesn't exist. I didn't see it, therefore I didn't experience anything spiritual, so no one else experienced. Very foolish idea. I didn't go to China, so other people, there are so many people said they went to China. But I didn't go, so China doesn't exist. If I go there, it might exist. Whoops, wait a minute, how can you go there if it doesn't exist? They've put themselves in the position of God. If I say it exists, it exists. If it doesn't, it doesn't. If I say God exists, He exists. If I don't agree, then He doesn't exist. Very foolish indeed. That they make themselves the arbitrator of whether or not God exists. So anyway, this is all foolishness. Practically the whole study of it, so many people studying, not so much, some people studying in university philosophy, but it's all rubbish, from beginning to end. All that philosophy, especially Western philosophy, because they don't even understand that you're not the body, which is the very beginning of spiritual, or the very beginning of, when we say spiritual knowledge, actually, we speak of para-vidya, apara-vidya. Knowledge of spiritual reality and knowledge of material reality. But actually, reality in the ultimate sense is only one. It's only our vision that we see material as distinguished from spiritual, because both are existing simultaneously. So, the beginning of knowledge, what does Krishna say in Gita? Amanitvam madham mitvam. one has to become humble, but they're not humble because they think, I'm so great, I've got such a big brain. So that is the entrance into knowledge. If one is humble, when one gives up his endeavor to know everything by mental speculation and becomes humble, then he can begin to understand Krishna. But that is the precondition for entering into spiritual life. Just like there are preconditions for entering into the college. You have to have certain degree, and you have to follow certain rules of conduct. Just like you have to go to the college in time. If you continuously miss the college, they'll throw you out, isn't it? They do that. If you don't come, they throw you out. Or if you misbehave, if you organize a riot or attack the teachers, you'll be expelled. There are certain conditions for entering into and remaining in that college. So the condition for entering into spiritual knowledge begins with humility, lack of false ego. And that is also the result. When one begins to approach with humility, then the result is vidyadadati vinayam. When one actually becomes knowledgeable, then he becomes humble, because he realizes, I'm very small and God is very great. So this is the condition for entering into the house of knowledge. And the first thing that one has to learn is that I'm not this body. That's the very beginning of knowledge. You find in Gita this information. You're not the body. You're spirit soul. You're transmigrating from body to body. So that is the beginning of transcendental knowledge, or existential knowledge of our existential position. We're not the body, we're spirit soul. But in Western so-called philosophy, they don't even get that far by their own mental speculation. They have so many theories, just like if the tree, funny theory, if the tree falls down and no one is there to see it, it doesn't fall down. It doesn't exist. Strange ideas. They must be on the platform of strange ideas because they didn't get the real idea, which is got by hearing from a transcendental source. Just like if you want to be a mathematician, can you become a mathematician just by sitting at home and thinking about it? Have you seen that sculpture? Greek sculpture? Someone is sitting with his elbow on his knee and his hand on his chin, thinking deeply. Socrates was famous for thinking and coming to the conclusion he didn't know anything. And he's supposed to be a great philosopher. Well, we can say he's great, he was better than the others. There's a story of Socrates in ancient Greece. That oracle means like Devavani. So people ask that oracle, who is the wisest person here? So he said, Socrates. He said, wait a minute, I don't know anything. How can I be the most wise person? So he went and listened to all the other philosophers speaking, and they're all speaking as if they knew something. He said, that's why I'm the most wise. Because all these people don't know anything, but they think they know something. But at least I realize that I don't know anything. So he is considered the greatest philosopher of ancient Greece. But he himself said, I don't know anything. And actually it's true, you can't know anything simply by speculating. So what kind of philosophy is it after thinking all your life, you don't know anything? The Vedic system of knowledge is different. Ved means knowledge. You go to a guru to get knowledge. Tad vijnanartam sagarum eva vigachet. Understanding that this material world is miserable, you should go to a guru to get that knowledge. Tad vijnanartam, for the sake of getting that vigyan, vishesh gyan, specialized knowledge, by which you can get free from material miseries. Otherwise, what's the point of being a philosopher and then after so many you say, I know nothing? What's the use? You should know something. You should know. Actually, if you go to Guru, then Acharyavan Purusho Veda, one who's got a Guru, he's supposed to know something. He's supposed to know not something, he's supposed to know what is reality. Sometimes people, they become disturbed by our devotees preaching. They say, oh, you're so dogmatic, you don't recognize so many different opinions. There's so many different opinions, so many gurus say so many different things. We say, no, we don't accept all these gurus saying different things. We accept what Krishna says. Because Krishna is the authority. This is the fact, that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And no one else is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even if he pretends to be. There are so many pretenders, pretending to be God. But we don't accept. They're all rascals. They may be popular and respected in human society, but if they pose themselves as God, then they should be kicked in the face with boots. Because they're rascals. They're misleading people. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the fact. And anything else you say which does not correspond with this in toto is simply nonsense. There are two things. One is sense, and the other thing is nonsense. You can't say that everything is true, because that is another nonsense. It's not that everything is true. 2 plus 2 equals 4. That's correct. That is sense. If you say 2 plus 2 equals 5, that is nonsense. So if you say Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that is a fact. If you say Sai Baba or Pramukh Swami is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it's not a fact. It's nonsense. It's meaningless. So people say we're very dogmatic. It's not a matter of being dogmatic. It's just a matter of knowing what the fact is. Should we agree just for the sake of social respectability? If there is a society of fools who say that 2 plus 2 equals 5, should we agree with them just to be peaceful and happy and we're all smiling together? 2 plus 2 equals 5. Yes, 2 plus 2 equals 5. Let's all be friends. Why are you fighting? Why are you disagreeing? You should just agree with everything. No, why should you agree with everything? You should agree with that which is correct. That which is correct is given in the Vedas. That is which is given is that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And if you don't agree with that, then you may call yourself a great philosopher, you're a fool. You may call yourself a great mathematician, but if you say 2 plus 2 equals 5, you're a fool. So devotees of Krishna, they know what is the fact because they've heard from the Acharya Parampara, beginning with Krishna himself, who's the original Acharya, who establishes Matapurakalamnanyat, I am supreme, and those who follow this Acharya Parampara, they know that Krishna is supreme. Supreme means there's no other supreme, only Krishna. So that is the fact. But so-called philosophers, they can't understand that. Why can't they understand? Why is it when it's very clear from Shastra that they can't understand? Because they're rascals. Their intelligence is covered by wrong ideas. Moghasha mogha karmano mogha jnana vichetasa rachasim surim chaiva prakritim ashritim shritaha. Those who are of demoniac disposition, their activities, their philosophical research, it all comes simply to disappointment and illusion. Simply illusion. Simply, you don't get anywhere. You can't get out of the bodily concept of life, which is the beginning. You can't get out of that without taking help from others. Just like sometimes you see a bug, a beetle, it's on its back and struggling like this with its 6 legs, trying to get up, but it can't get up. It simply goes around in circles. So if you put a leaf, it can take hold of the leaf and then it can come up to its right position. So like that, unless you take some help from someone who's in a better position than you, you can struggle and struggle, but you'll remain within the foolish condition. And you can't recognize reality because of demoniac disposition. So this materially absorbed mind, that is the condition from which we are to be delivered. Therefore, first of all, it's recommended here yoga practice. Not that yoga practice is particularly spiritual or transcendental, but it's a beginning. This is called the first step in God realization. Of course, this modern idea that you do it simply as an exercise, or to lose weight, or to have some peace of mind, or to improve your sexual abilities, yoga for sex. So many ideas they have. And this will not help you to make any spiritual progress. But for those who actually follow the yoga process, then it's just a beginning. It's actually yoga, this yoga process is actually for those who are grossly in the bodily concept of life. But it brings them up a little bit, because it eventually, when you go through all the bodily exercises and controlling the breath and so many different things, then you finally come to the point of dhyana avasito tadgatena manasa pashyantiyam yogino. The yogis, they're supposed to meditate on Vishnu. They don't really understand who he is, because unless and until one adopts the attitude of service to Vishnu, then you can't properly understand who Vishnu is. Therefore, generally the yogis, if they get to the point of meditation on Vishnu, they finally think that I am Vishnu. Because they didn't get the transcendental instruction from one situated on the platform of Vishnu Bhakti. But it's a beginning. It's a beginning. This is being told here by Shukadeva Goswami. That's a beginning. Not that he expected Parikshit Maharaj to go off and become a so-called yogi. He didn't have time anyway. You see, the yogis, they have to meditate for a long time. Parikshit Maharaj only had 7 days. And even before this, Shukadeva Goswami had told that Tasmat Bharata Sarvatma Bhagavan Ishvaro Hari Shotavyas. You should hear about Bhagavan Ishvara Hari, the Supreme Personality of God. Hear about Shotavyas, Kirtitavyas, chant about the personality of Godhead. Smartavyas Chechatavayam. We should remember him. So he's describing this system of yoga that is for the gross materialists. Actually not meant for Parikshit Maharaj. It's being described practically as a matter of formality, because the followers of the Bhagavat school, they're not going to engage in this kind of yoga. Actually, some in the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, sometimes that's recommended. Actually, that's part of deity worship also, to perform yoga. And sometimes some members of the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, they are expert in doing these yoga exercises. So that is for the sake of making the body healthy, because generally those who are doing puja, they don't have any physical exercise or any such thing. And for concentrating the mind, these are mechanical processes to fix up the mind and make the body healthy. So sometimes in some branches of the Sri Vaishnava tradition, they also perform this bodily kind of yoga for some time in the day. One of the famous teachers of yoga based in Pune is Iyengar. Iyengar means the Sri Vaishnava Brahmins. But in our Gauriya Vaishnava process, we don't recommend this. Chant Hare Krishna and dance. You get all the benefits. By chanting, you have breathing in and out. By dancing, you get some exercise. And by active engagement in Krishna's service, the body is anyway exercised. Not very much required. Otherwise, there are so many things. If you want to follow strictly all the Vedic processes, there are so many things to follow. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has made it very simple. Very simple. He's condensed all the different details of Vedic processes into chanting the holy names of Krishna. Sadhya sadhana tattva jaikichu shakal harinam sankirtane milibe shakal. All Chaitanya Mahaprabhu described that all the different Vedic processes have been condensed into this process of Harinam Sankirtan. One Brahmin approached Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He said, I've read so many different books, and I've heard so many different people, and they say so many different things. I'm confused. What should I do? You can imagine that was 500 years ago. You can imagine nowadays if you started to read all different books and listen to so many things, there's so many different ideas. One famous so-called spiritual leader in Gujarat, recommends worship trees, make a Vriksha Mandir. Of course, that's also there within our Vedic culture, but not every tree. That means you should worship Vatavriksha, people, these trees should be worshipped, and especially above all others, Tulsi. You should worship Tulsi as the most important tree to worship. But not that you do some forestry and make a jungle and we call this a Vriksha Mandir. We don't find any such idea in Shastra. So there's so many strange ideas. But circumventing for our own benefit all these useless ideas, we should simply worship Vishnu, and that is by the process of Harinam, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Eva Kevalam. Hello, Nasteva, Nasteva, Nasteva. Chant Hare Krishna. Don't get entangled with all these nonsense, fools and rascals who they themselves are blind and they want to become gurus. They themselves are in the bodily concept of life and they want to teach you. What will they teach? Simply they're increasing their own false prestige, and in many cases their bank balance also. Even some so-called Vaishnavas, their main business as a guru is simply to accept donations. They don't take any responsibility for their disciples. Simply, yes, you initiated. Okay, that's 10,000 rupees. Thank you very much. So this is all cheating. Anyone who's sincere to understand spiritual life, he'll not be misled by this. He'll know what is he'll have a natural attraction for that which is real. Tamasima, Jyoti, Gamara, come out of the darkness. If a guru, so-called guru, is himself in the darkness, then how will he lead you out of the darkness? That is called Andha Parampara Nyaya. One who is blind, he's leading another blind man. Yes, the blind man can't see, so he doesn't know that he's putting his hand on the shoulder of another blind man. He thinks, yes, he can see, because he's talking as if, yes, I can see nicely, you see, we're walking ahead. Blind man, he doesn't know, but he's following another blind man who's pretending to see. But he's only pretending, so ultimately he falls into the stool pit, and his follower falls with him. So one should take shelter of one who can see, not a blind man. Utkramantam stitam vapi gunjanam vagunam vitam vimudha nanu pashyanti jnana chakshusha. One who can see, the first thing he should know is that we are not these bodies, we're transmigrating from body to body to body. That is the first thing. If you don't know that, then you're not just a fool, but you're vimudha, very big fool. On top of that, one should know we're transmigrating from body to body. Why? Because Krishna Bhuli Seji Vanadi Bahimuk Atev Mayataridaya Shamsharadi. Because we forgot Krishna. Therefore we should remember Krishna by chanting His holy names, serving Krishna, associating with His devotees, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from a devotee, not from an entertainer. Kataka, Kalaka. Not like this. You should hear from a devotee. A devotee means who has the intention to benefit you by speaking. One who is an actual devotee, he's interested in benefiting others by speaking, not benefiting himself. That, that was a good joke, I should earn 10,000 rupees from that one. You're not thinking like that. How to entertain, how to make some show. Krishna, that's described in Bhagavatam. Hitavatirna, he has descended into this world. Why? For the sake of benefiting others. So one should hear from those who actually have the benefit of others in mind. Not compromising for the sake of some social nicety. You should teach. You're not this body, you're spirit soul. What is that verse? Udilavara, and he says, Divasa Sharira Shanja. Ebena Bhajale Jashodisha. Udita Tapana Hoile Asta Dim Galobale Hoviusta. Tabekina Ebe Alashai Nabaja Hridari Raji. Jivana Anita Jana Ashat Tahin Anavida Vipagabha. Namashrai. Which verse? I can't remember exactly. Anyway, he's saying that why are you spending your nights uselessly sleeping and your days simply in maintaining your body? Don't you know that the Lord of your heart is Krishna? Why are you wasting your time? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as the ideal Acharya, taught about Krishna. Jare deko tare kaha, Krishna upadesh. Amaragya guru hayatar idesh. Wherever you go, wherever you meet, instruct them in the science of Krishna, and this way become a guru and deliver the land. Jadi ama pratishneho take shabakat tabi Krishna beti rikta nagyaya. If you actually want to be my friend, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, if you're affectionate to me, then don't speak about anything except Krishna. Kishayane, ki bhojane, ki bajagarane, aharnisha, chinta, Krishna, alahabadane. Whether you're sleeping, eating, rising, daytime, nighttime, whatever you're doing, chant Hare Krishna. Remember Krishna. This Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's advice. Not some artificial imitation of Krishna. There's so many imitations. Imitation we don't want. We want real Krishna. Anyone can imitate. That's useless. There have been so many Pondrakas. And such people are useless. Now there are so many imitators. You ask yourself this. There may be some from Swami or Panduranga Shastri. Here they're quite well known. In other, if you go to Madurai, who has heard of Pramukh Swami? Nobody. There's some other cheater there. Kalki Bhagavan, so-called. He already had to leave Tamil Nadu, chased out because the government wanted to arrest him. So he had to go to Andhra Pradesh. Now you see, we're reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad-gita, 5,000 years old. At least from our point of view, they're 5,000 years old. And the subject is Krishna. So you think in 5,000 years anyone's going to have heard of Pramukh Swami? In 500 years? Maybe. 5,000 years, anyone will have heard the name of this Pandurang Alsi. No one's going to. 5,000 years they'll be forgotten completely. But in 5,000 years, Krishna will still be glorified because He's always glorified, because He is the Supreme Personality of God. For us, 5,000 years is a long time. For the demigods, it's not a long time. The demigods are always glorifying Krishna. From Brahma, Varunendra, Rudra, Maruta, Stundanti, Divyais, Devaya. All the demigods are glorifying Krishna. And Krishna sends His representatives into this world from time to time to preach His message. That's why we see all the great acharyas. Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Vishnu Swami, Nimbakacharya. They all came and spoke of Krishna or Vishnu. We don't find that in history, 1,000 years ago or 500 years ago, someone came and spoke about Pramukh Swami. We don't find there's any great acharya. It's just all something new, modern, useless rubbish. Just like you see at night, there's some little fly. It becomes little bright shining. And in the morning, there's one season where you have so many flies. In the morning, you wipe them all out. In the night, they're flying around and some light is there. Little light. And in the morning, thousands of them you have to sweep up. In Gujarat, you don't get so much. In Bengal, in that season, means towards the end of the rainy season, big piles of these flies. They're making some, so like that, firefly, glowworm, little, not even light. Actually, they're making more darkness. But they're insignificant insects. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's an eternal fact. No one's ever going to replace Krishna by their firefly antics. Foolish people are attracted. So better not be a fool. Why we're studying Srimad Bhagavatam? Srimad Bhagavatam, you won't find anywhere in the Vedic literature says Pramukh Swami is the Supreme. Sai Baba is the Supreme. You'll never find any such thing. Everywhere it is stated. Vede Ramayane Chaiva Purane Bharata Tata Adab Ante Chamadde Cha Hari Sarvatra Giyate. In all the Vedas, Ramayana, Puranas, Mahabharata, Upanishads, everything, they all declare Hari is supreme. You'll never find that some local person who's known in a few days. You see, even in this district, some Pramukh Swami may be popular. You go to Mehsana, that side, they don't care. They don't care at all. They're not interested in Pramukh Swami or Swami Narayan. But here, just a few districts are beautiful. Oh, they think he's God. What fools! Such foolishness. And Gujaratis are proud that, oh, we're so intelligent, and we're so advanced, and we're so progressive. You're such fools! You think this person is God, you're a fool. Never mind you have a cielo car, or a big bungalow with air conditioners in every room. You're a fool if you don't accept Krishna as the Supreme. That's all. So we're not going to listen to any foolish nonsense. Nonsense means foolish. We're listening to Srimad Bhagavatam. Here we have Shuka Uvacha. We are interested in what Shukadeva Goswami says. He's a Mahajan. He's a real Mahajan. He's a real authority. Because he's speaking of Krishna. He's speaking of the absolute truth. Not some imagined truth. Krishna is the absolute truth. Hare Krishna. Is there any question? Speak loudly, then it can come to your turn.
In Shastra, the orders is given according to circumstances, person and time. So, like it is humble, because everybody should be humble. So, in this situation,
Shastra, some things are said according to time, place, and circumstance. Desh, Kal, Patra. So, is the instruction to be humble, is that according to time, place, and circumstance? Some things in Shastra are according to time, place, and circumstance. Other things are not. There are principles and there are details. Principle is not adjustable. Detail you can adjust according to time, place, and circumstance. Just like the principle that everyone should worship Krishna. You can't say, well, according to time, place, and circumstance, in Gujarat, in some places, Pramukh Swami is more popular than Krishna. Therefore, we won't worship Krishna, we'll worship Pramukh Swami. That's nonsense. That is a principle, a non-adjustable principle, that one should worship Krishna. Then there are some details, such as one should bathe early in the morning. It's an important detail. And generally one should always bathe early in the morning. But it's a detail, it can be adjusted. If you're sick, there's no water, you may not take bath early in the morning. So that's a detail which can be adjusted according to time, place, and circumstance. As far as being humble is concerned, humility is the characteristic, it's a prime characteristic of one who has surrendered to Krishna. So it is not that one should stop being humble. You should always be humble. But humility may be expressed in a different way. Arjuna expressed his humility by fighting. How is that humility? Because he submitted to Krishna. Krishna gave the order to fight. If Arjuna had not followed, then he would have not been humble, because he would have not submitted to Krishna. So the expression of humility, just like the expression of how one surrenders to Krishna, that may manifest itself differently in different times, places, and circumstances. But the principal characteristics of devotional service, that is not to be given up at any time. In other words, one may be, just like Arjuna is fighting, but not out of man or dambha. It says amanitvam adhamnitvam, means pridelessness and lack of self-prestige. So Arjuna wasn't fighting for the sake of self-prestige or pride. He was fighting on the order of Krishna. Any other question? No. What do they quote? They say something, the words are there, Sahaja Ananda. So those words are there, but there's no such quote that Sahajananda Swami is the personality of Godhead. Just like there may be some saying in Shastra, Satyam Shivam Sundaram. So if someone happens, there's so many people in South India have the name Sundaram. So does that mean that they're all an incarnation of the Supreme Absolute Truth? Or there are so many people in India called Gopal, Madhav, Krishna. So does it mean they're the personality of Godhead? Personality of Godhead is Gopal, Madhav, Krishna. It doesn't mean that everyone who's got that name is Krishna. Who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Devaki Suta Hari, Krishna. Otherwise there may be so many people with the name Krishna. Vyasa is also called Krishna. Arjuna is also called Krishna. Draupadi is called Krishna. There's some great demons have the name Krishna. There's one Dr. Radha Krishna, first president of India. He's a complete beast. His philosophy is absolutely demonic. Does it mean he's God? He thought he was God, but God put him in a coma before he died. He became a vegetable. Ramakrishna, very nice name. Not a very nice person who had it. Gadadhar Chattopadhyaya. His name was Gadadhar, which is the name of Vishnu, Krishna. And he became known as Ramakrishna. But he's another demon. It's not just by some words in Shastra that you take it completely out of context and misinterpret. Sahajanand Swami we respect. He's a devotee. He says that I worship Radha and Krishna, and he encouraged others to do so. That's in the Shiksha Patri. But then the Vachanamrit was written by other people who made him out to be God. But we don't find in his own writings he says any such thing. So they have misinterpreted. What? It seems that Swaminarayan Sampradaya is becoming more and more popular day by day. Well, so what? Lalu Prasad Yadav is popular in his home state. Who is telling me there's Lalu Chalisa now? Because Hanuman Chalisa is very popular in Bihar, so now they made Lalu Chalisa. So if someone's popular, does it mean that that's something bona fide? We have the perfect philosophy, we're not able to defeat them. Why we're not able to defeat them? Bring any one of them, we'll defeat them. But they're more popular, that just shows that the effect of Kali is there. People in the material world, they want to be foolish and rascals. So they're attracted to such things. One person chanting Hare Krishna is more valuable than millions of people going in the wrong direction. Ekas Chandra Tamohanti King Natara. What's that? That one moon gives more light than millions of stars. If you're in the country in the new moon day, everything is completely black, even though there will be millions of stars in the sky. When the moon is full, then you can see everything very clearly. So one moon is more important than millions of stars. And that's simply another, you say they've become very popular, so what? It's just another transformation of Maya, that's all. Sometimes in Maya, sometimes people follow that or they follow this, but it's all Maya, it's all just like stool. Just like if you say nowadays people are passing green stool more. So what? Many people these days pass green stool. Why don't they chant Hare Krishna? What's the relationship? There is no relationship. You say people are following Swami Narayan or whatever this. It's got no relationship to actual spiritual life. It's just another kind of illusion, that's all. Nowadays, Kellogg's cornflakes has become popular in India. So what? What's that got to do with us? It's got nothing to do with spiritual life. And similarly, this so-called Swami Narayan, it's got nothing to do with spiritual life. They have no spiritual idea. They don't know. Simply cheating, up, down, middle, every part of it is simply cheating. That's all.
What is religion?
What is religion? Dharmam tu sakshad bhagavat pranita. Religion means to follow what is given by God in the Vedic literatures, which is sarva dhamman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja, to surrender to Krishna. That is religion. Hare Krishna. We finish there.